everybody. Welcome again to another episode of Fundanani Africa's Inspirational Youth Thursdays. And today we have the lovely Miss Karabo. I'm going to give you a applause. We don't have an audience, a live audience yet. That's a prophecy for what's coming. So welcome to our Inspirational Youth Thursday. It's such a pleasure to have you with us today. And I hope you are ready for the questions and ready to be grilled.
Bring it on. I'm really excited to be here. I'm really grateful.
Great. I'm happy and grateful and happy as well. So may you just, the first question, just kindly give us a brief description of who you are, and also one interesting fact about yourself.
Okay, so I don't know how to be brief about who I am, but I think it's very difficult to be very brief. But I think in terms of just the basics, I guess I'm just a regular person. I'm a regular girl, South African, just somebody who is a lover of life and people, I guess, but also somebody who's seen purpose in serving people.
Oh, wow.
So a lot of me is serving. I am a lawyer by profession, so it's a lot, but exciting.
Yeah.
And I'm a social development activist as well. And often people like asking what that is, just serving people in different ways.
Okay.
And I think one interesting fact about myself, I can dance. Everybody thinks people who are in these,
I can hardly dab. I'm that one, like
I love dancing. I can dance. And I think because of the careers I'm in, there's a misconception that we all can't dance. I'm yay.
Child, we need to have like a studio set up here at Fundanani. We can just have you come in and just show us a little something.
Yes.
That's amazing. That's a great fact to know. And like with the career that you do, man, you must have the patience and the heart, because you're constantly giving and giving and giving of yourself. So I hope you pat yourself on the back when you get home every day. Like well done.
Yeah, I should start doing that.
So speaking of your work as a youth and gender activist, I hope I got that correctly. What does that job entail? I think now you can go into a little bit of detail with regards to that.
Yeah. So being a youth and gender activist, number one, your voice. So you represent the voices of, young people are marginalized, women are marginalized. So as an activist, number one, your role is to represent those voices that are not represented in a lot of these spaces, not also represent their issues. So sometimes they can be within these spaces, but not necessarily their issues are not necessarily represented. I mean, sometimes we see it also in Parliament. We have young people, but youth issues are not reflected by, the representation within Parliament itself. So the first thing is really being a voice. The second thing is really, going out, going at a grassroots level and really engaging young people, engaging women, in whatever programs that they need. So on my side, in our organization, we do a lot of economic development, but we also focus on the adolescent girl because there's a gap there. There's a huge gap when it comes to adolescent girls. And
and they go so much at that period of their lives. Oh gosh.
Yes, it's almost like a make or break time of your life.
It is.
And so I then also took my career to an international level. And I think that's where most people could recognize my work. So I've worked with the African Union, the United Nations, the Commonwealth. And within those spaces, it's more coordinating programs, advising, member states or countries, or even these sort of entities to say, there's no way you're going to create programs for us without us being here to tell you how to do it and how to serve us. And that's been more of my role, advising them, really guiding them to say, okay, sure, maybe, for example, programs around, sexual education within schools, if we're still preaching things like abstinence as our primary form of, sex education, then you are leaving out a lot of things. You can, yes, maybe abstinence could be your main thing, but don't forget about the fact that young people are active, young people are having sex. What about that?
And it's so scary in this day and age, how like the age is getting lower. Like when we were in high school, I think we started at like maybe like 14. Not me. I'm just saying during that time.
Yeah, but you're speaking the truth. It's a reality.
Yeah. So like it's going to like 12, 11, and it's so scary. Oh my gosh.
It is. If we're having 10-year-olds getting pregnant, that speaks volumes. It shows that the abstinence, method or approach of speaking about sexuality education may not necessarily work for everybody. And we need to find a different way to approach it, because our society, or the reality is that people are having sex. But now we need to then prevent things like STIs, teenage pregnancy. And the best way is to preach sexuality education.
Right.
So if you decide, we want you to not do it, but if you decide to, use protection. That's what we should be doing.
Sure. Wow. But I commend you for the work you do. And like you said, there is a gap in the adolescent age kind of thing, where like it's just not much attention paid to them. And like that's when shisa. People want to be everywhere, and explore. If my child says she wants to explore, I am getting her books. She must explore the books. So you work with the youth a lot, and I just want to know, in the general sense, what do you think about the youth of this generation? Like how they portray themselves, or how, like, compared to Kale, let me say, would you say that the youth of this generation is not doing the most, but just really, do you feel that they are living up to what the youth should be living up to at their age?
I think that I would say yes, they are. I think that we need to kind of have a fair assessment of where the young people of today are versus the young people maybe of back then. Now we have more social pressures. We have technology. We're exposed to more things when it comes to, life in general. The pressures are more body positivity, comparison, mental health is out there. We have, there's a lot of things that are now more visible. Not that all those things were not there, but the social pressures are much more for this specific generation. There's pressures to make sure you have, things like, I don't know, there's this now culture of we all want to be rich. We all want to party. We all want to, there's that sort of narrative, and the pressures have moved. And also, I guess there's this saying where they say every generation has a mission, and our mission is really different. So there can't be an expectation that maybe for us, our mission is maybe still protesting for whatever the case may be. Maybe our mission is really to speak more about the realities within our communities. Maybe our mission is to speak about gender-based violence, whereas previously it was a silent thing. Maybe our mission is to speak about mental health, because such a thing affects our communities, especially Black communities. Maybe our mission is really to speak about those specific things that we never ever really speak about. Whereas previously their mission was, let's break down the system. Let's rather try and make sure our kids come into a system that's much better for us. Whereas we are now facing the after effects, the traumas, those sort of things are now are impacting us. And so I think they really are living up to it. I think that we need to also be a bit more sympathetic to them, because I think the social pressures are a lot.
They are.
I think even sometimes I look at myself and like, oof, wish I was born in the 1960s because all of this is a lot. It's a bit much. And there are times where I even would have to like zone out of social media just to be like, whew, okay, I'm still this person, I'm still this person, because the social pressures are a lot.
It's a lot. I remember telling my mom, "For I wish I was born in their generation. Like I know, for if I am dating, it is that guy, and he's gonna ride his bicycle all the way from where he is to my house to just give me a simple message, not even like text or what's just to have that personal, you know. Because these days everything is done through the social. So I'm just like the pressure is too high. So we can actually commend the youth of this generation for just being so independent minded. Like they're just so so what can you say is the highlight of within the industry that you're in? What's your greatest highlight?
I think it's like an overtime thing. I think it's the impact that I've made. You know, sometimes I even look at myself when people send me DMs and I'm like, really? Is that me? You know, it's kind of like a disbelief in terms of, especially where I'm making indirect impact. I don't know you, I've never spoken to you, but I'm getting a message. Oh my gosh, you're such an inspiration. I'm like, oh, okay. So within that, it's been great to know that somewhere, somehow, my work is really impacting somebody, whether it's directly or indirectly. I think that in the world that we live in, everybody needs some form of inspiration. Everybody needs some form of hope. Everybody needs some form of, if she can do it, so can I. Because I think there's a lot of things that, you know, because of the social pressures, there's a lot of reason to kind of look down on yourself as a person, to feel maybe imposter syndrome, to feel like you don't belong in a specific space. So being a regular person, I'm from a rural village in Limpopo, so it's like, okay, sure, I did it, and I want to make sure there's impact. I want to change people's lives. So can you do it? Why not?
Wow. I can't imagine like the feeling, like imagine someone saying like you've changed their lives. Like, can you just tell me how what that feels like for you when you receive such messages? Like, do you feel like a mini celebrity, like, or does it encourage you to keep on pushing and doing more?
I think the one thing it does for me really is to push me to do more, because I think a lot of the times people think that you're constantly strong. And there are times where even I sit and I'm like, I'm tired. I'm really tired because I'm giving so much of myself. But I think that when somebody else comes and says, I see you and thank you for what you're doing, I'm like, yes, let's continue pushing. Let's continue doing this. So that's where it's been that sort of push for me. In terms of feeling like a mini celebrity, not really. I think,
and it's okay to feel like that, you know, it's okay.
Yeah, I don't actually. I think sometimes I'm in disbelief a lot of the time, like, oh, okay. I'm always like shocked and, you know,
Sure, that's great. So the next question is opposite of what I've just asked, and that is, what has been the hardest challenge for you on your journey to becoming who you are right now?
So I think the hardest thing was twofold. I think the first one being impatient, and the second one being hard on myself. So because so with the impatience, I wanted my career and my journey to move in a certain direction at a specific pace, because sometimes I'd look at, you know, people within the space and be like, okay, this person made it fast just like that. Why can't I as well? Because activism is twofold in my opinion. You either become an activist by virtue of your story, you shared your story, you're out there and you become this, you know, activist. Or you are a person who's had to really work from ground up to support people. You're not at the forefront, and I'm not at the forefront. I've never seen the need to tell my story to be an activist. And that takes longer. It takes so much longer for you to be an activist that is rather behind the scenes helping people. And I used to be very impatient to say, I actually want to be like the other people. That was very tough for me, but also being hard on myself in that I got to a point where even if I've done so great, I'm numb to, the whole, even you just saying, you must make sure you pat yourself, at the end of the day and whatsoever. I'd become very numb to that. It's like, okay, I've done this, next. Let's
you want to go and go and go.
Yes, let's keep going. There's never a moment to say, girl, you did that. You did that. And that was definitely me being very hard on myself and feeling like anything I'm doing is not enough and I had to do more.
Sure. And that's a lot of, that's like what most of our youth go through today. Like they feel like I need to do more. And like the patience isn't there because you want it now and you want to do it now and you want to make that impact now. And so sometimes you overwork yourself or you might jump over everything that you've accomplished and not even remember that you accomplished 1, 2, 3 because you're just moving and moving. So I hope now you have mini celebrations for yourself after the impact that you make. Like, God, wow, I actually did that. Like, that's me right there.
I do. Yeah.
So how did you become the African Youth Ambassador for Peace? Let's get into that.
Okay. So that was actually an application. So it was a regular application.
Oh, okay.
But I think that the story behind it was more interesting in that. So I was subscribed to the emailing list of the Youth Envoy.
Okay.
And they sent the advert, but they sent the advert through email during the extended period. So they extended this thing. I didn't see it the first time they advertised it.
Yo, wow. So you caught it in the nick of time.
Yeah, so they extended it and they sent it and I'm like, okay, what is this? I looked at it, I'm like, that's not for me. I closed that email. Then they sent another reminder, I think 5 days before. I open it and I'm like, again, this is just not for me. They sent 3 days left. I opened the email. I'm like, okay, let me try it out. So I started the application. And when I started the application, halfway, I closed the application. I'm like, this is not for me. And then they sent the 1 day left email. I'm like, okay, so you can save your application. So it's not that I
so you don't have to start from scratch.
Yes. So I saved that application. That's fine. And then they're like 1 day left. And then I was like, okay, you know what? I know I'm not going to get it anyway. It's not for me.
Oh, wow. You said that to yourself.
I did. Because it was peace and security. I'm like, I'm not really a peace and security activist. I'm more into the, woman empowerment, young people type of stuff. And peace and security for somebody who's from a country like South Africa is like, we don't have wars. We don't have, So I don't know what I'd be doing there speaking about peace and security. So then I submitted. I was like, anyway, I'm not going to get it. It will never kill me anyway, submitting. I submitted. And then I got the invite for the assessments, for the interviews. And on the days, it was exam season. So it was November, it was peak exams. And 2 of the days when I'm supposed to be in Ethiopia, I'm writing exams. I'm like, I almost, like when I told, I think a family member, they were like, don't go, exams are important. Because obviously education, is key. And I just made the decision to defer my exams and go. And I went. And
what?
I deferred. I went and I did the interview. And amongst the group, even I came at the top in terms of my score amongst the 15 shortlisted candidates. And then I got the Southern Africa one. And I was just like, I think that was my first time realizing alignment and when something is meant for you. Yeah. Because I didn't believe it was meant for me. I didn't want to apply.
Yeah.
I was almost not going to go for the interviews, but it all worked out so well. And that's how I applied.
Like
so it wasn't
out your name, because Philippine, you said Hore, it was extended. The original date had like close by.
It is closed.
And now it's extended and you're like, no, and they keep reminding you. It's like God is saying, hey, oh my God.
Yes, he was. And I think it's one of those where I think within the application, I kind of gave it my all within the application for sure. Even though I felt like I wasn't going to get shortlisted at all, but that's how it was. So it was an application process. We recently had the call for applications for the new ones, and they just selected one that we're starting next year after our term ends. So it's an application thing. And I think anybody who's interested in young people related work should apply for it. It's open application. Anybody has a chance. I thought I didn't have a chance because I'm not a people security person, but somehow, somewhere, I also found a way to find a voice in peace and security from a person from South Africa. Gender-based violence is a peace and security issue. Unemployment is a peace and security issue. Xenophobia is a peace and security issue. So I was able to bring it home, even if we don't have a war, guns, bombs, it's like we still have peace and security issues. Yeah.
So now you have no regrets whatsoever for applying?
Never. I have zero regrets.
Love it. Yeah. That is a testimony, child. And I encourage all people out there. It's okay to doubt yourself, but doesn't mean you should stop. If you be encouraged to just take that leap of faith. If you get it, yay. If you don't, still you tried. That's you can't win the lotto without betting. So congrats. Like, that story is inspiring. So speaking of inspiration, because it's Inspirational Youth Thursday, in your own words or from your own perspective, what does being an inspiration mean to you? And do you consider yourself to be an inspiration?
Oh, okay. I think inspiration, I would say, and I want to say it more from a person's perspective. I think it's really, it exists within a person being authentic. I think it also exists in a person understanding what it is that they deserve. And working hard for those specific things. I don't think you even have to achieve those things. So I can find inspiration in somebody who just rocks up every day to school on time, works really hard, submits on time. And that's inspiring because the work ethic is amazing. So I think it's being your authentic self, but also challenging yourself as an individual. You want something, work hard for it, push yourself, get out of that comfort of, things will come to me, but rather go for them. I think people break boundaries, and in the smallest ways. It doesn't have to be you becoming president, now you're inspiration. No, breaking boundaries within your own corner to say, actually, today I'm just going to tell somebody that they're great. That alone is you breaking boundaries about the realities of not being able to speak to somebody and make their day and whatsoever.
Yeah.
So being able to really challenge the status quo, challenge yourself as an individual. Because I think the humanity likes comfort. We like comfortability as human beings.
Yeah.
Where we put ourselves in positions where we're shaking in our boots or we are growing, we avoid such things. And I think people who are able to really put themselves out there and really, be authentic as well, it's very inspiring. Do I consider myself an inspiration? It's so hard to answer that question. But
I think you won't sound like you are like arrogant or anything. Let it flow.
I do. I think also just based on the conversations I've had with people, I think me being an inspiration does come from me making sure that in whatever space or in whatever thing I do, I'm quite selfless, number one, but also I'm very open. I'm very acknowledging where I have a gap and where I need to learn. I'll come to you if I have to and say, I don't know how to do this. Please teach me, so that I'm also good at actually doing it. But I think the biggest thing that makes me an inspiration is really giving off to other people. I've given myself off to other people so much, in that I'll be there for people. The reason why I'm still on social media is because of people and wanting to inspire people through my journey, not for myself. So I do a lot of things so that others can wake up and get some form of hope. People can feel like I can actually do it, or feel like, you know what, there's good in this world somewhere, somehow. But also I try and make myself accessible. I'm not a person who's like, even some people get surprised I reply to DMs. I've had people be like, I'm so surprised you replied to it. I'm like, why? I'm not even a celebrity or anything. I will reply to my DMs. I will reply. And if you're asking me for advice, guidance, I'll give myself off, because I've had the privilege and benefit of learning from other people. I need to afford it to other people as opposed to keeping it to myself. And I think we have a culture of holding on to things, which it will die with you. Give it off. Why not?
The way you give of yourself. Wow. Sure. Most people, not even like famous people, like just regular people, just when you send a DM, you'll get your answer when you've forgotten you even sent the DM. So ciao.
Yeah.
I commend you for that. Last question. How would you advise the youth of today to overcome like the obstacles, the challenges that life throws at them, and just go forth and live out their dream, whatever it is they want to be? Like, how would you advise them to just overcome those obstacles?
So I think the first thing is acknowledgement. I think we tend to, because it's either because of the country, because we're such they call us a traumatized country. We tend to like running away from challenges and problems, and either, you consume alcohol too much, or, you're always trying to find an escape. And I think sometimes really just acknowledging is the best thing that will happen to a person. Acknowledging that, okay, cool, I have this problem, or I'm facing this problem. How do I deal with it? Or, just a basic acknowledging and asking yourself how to really deal with it. If you don't, ask for help as well. I think asking for help is every single thing. And I'd like to give an example with that one. So I have, I battle with mental health. And because of the high pressured career I'm in and whatsoever, I'm constantly trying to, I used to escape through work. If I'm not okay, I'm constantly working, because work kind of, it keeps you busy. You don't get to think about the things and whatsoever. And there was a point where I just reached a breaking point, and I'm like, I can't anymore continue running to work for an escape. And I had to just sit down and acknowledge, to sit down to say, you're not okay because of 1, 2, 3. How do you deal with it? If you have to do self-care Sunday every once in a while or every week, then so be it. If you need to take moments to take care of yourself, then do that, just so that you can be fine. But in escaping and then 1 minute you're breaking down or whatsoever, that's not healthy. I had to acknowledge. So acknowledgement is the first thing. And I think then the second thing is challenging yourself. Comfort is a problem. I repeat,
I am so guilty of being comfortable, and I just, I'm listening to this advice.
Comfort is such a problem because it doesn't stretch you, it doesn't grow you. You need to really challenge yourself. And I think that, and I don't want to even say it as if it's easy peasy, you have to just get up and say, today I'm going to that one I can acknowledge. I can acknowledge also there's something called, imposter syndrome. It's such a big thing. And you might feel like, what, this is not for me, I'm not good enough, you doubt yourself. Those things exist for sure. And I think overcome that in the process of just doing things and challenging yourself. You'll really overcome it that way. I had to overcome my imposter syndrome by finding myself in international spaces, because sometimes I'd sit there in the corner and be like, do I even belong here?
Yeah.
Should I even talk? Is what I'm going to say valuable?
Eish.
But I had to challenge myself and find myself in those spaces in order for me to be like, man, I should be here. They have to hear what I have to say. And they're going to hear what I have to say. But that was not, it was not easy to get here. I had to really challenge myself and put myself in very uncomfortable positions where, you know, I'm shaking before talking. Those things, you know, that's
they're
how
natural.
you yourself. Yeah, they're natural. You just have to be like, okay, this shaking will shake with me on the stage. It's fine. You know, I'll shake today on stage. And eventually now I don't shake anymore when it comes to speakers.
Once you get over it, you just flow.
It's a flow. So challenge yourself as young people. And also I think trying things is also another thing. I think try and don't always expect yourself to succeed. Try with the aim of learning and growing. So I've tried to
for a bit of failure here and there. It's okay.
Yes, absolutely. I've tried to start a business. It didn't work out, but it made me realize that I'm not a business person.
So you don't have that what mentality anymore.
Yes, it's
gone. You tried it, it's done.
Yes, it's not for me. I started my first NPO. It failed, and I needed it to fail in order for me to learn. Now I have another NPO where it's aligned. It's women empowerment. We've had 3 international grants.
Wow.
But it wouldn't be at this point had that one not failed, because I wouldn't know that, you know what, we needed policies, we needed this, we needed that. So try, don't be scared to fail. If you fail, you're like, oh well, this is what I learned, and now we move, we grow. Or you could just learn something about yourself.
I love that. That's the best advice. I think my favorite from what you said is not like you, instead of telling ourselves I don't belong here or I'm not fit to do this, tell yourself, no, I do belong here. I am where I'm supposed to be, and I am gonna do this. It might not work, but I'm gonna give it a shot. So I love that, and I hope everyone who is watching also got that, because these are gems that Karabo is spitting out, guys. Gems. Thank you so much, Sis Karabo, for just being here and just giving us another part of yourself and encouraging us today. And without further ado, we can end it off unless you have something else you'd like to share with us.
Firstly, I'd like to really thank, I hope you guys can't hear the lightning because it's raining here. But I really
didn't even know.
I'd really like to thank you guys for having me. I think the biggest thing really for me is, you know, as I guess young people and inspiration, is also not to forget to bring others along. I think we forget that so much. We forget that so much. And in as much as I think this generation, one thing that they have is everybody's so self-centered, and you know, it's all about ourselves, which is okay. It's okay really to be self-centered. But I think in the process, also bring others with you. I remember somebody was being asked to mentor people, and she's like, I'm too young to mentor people. And it was like, but the reason why people are asking you to mentor them is because they see something in you that they can get from you. So bring people, share information. It will never, ever kill you. It will really not. And I think that with the kind of, you know, the way South Africa is, we really need to have, you know, visibility and access to things, because not everybody has that. A lot of people actually don't have that. And we need to bring each other along. I think I always say, for me, I don't find it nice or entertaining anymore to be the only young person in a room. For me, that's boring. I'm so sorry. I know people like bragging about that. Oh, I'm the first young person. I'm the only. No, let us be 10 in here and then make the noise that we need to make so that it's impactful. Let me not be the only woman in the space. No, I want to speak to other women and say, you know what? These men are just speaking rubbish about gender dynamics or whatsoever. I don't want to constantly be the only person, the only young person. And that's why we need to bring each other up. We need to open spaces for other people. It really needs to happen. And the only people who can do that is ourselves.
Yeah.
Really, it is really ourselves. And don't hold on to things. You just need to go. I was even excited that my term is coming to an end, because I'm like, bring in the next young person so that they can bring a different narrative, maybe, better projects than I did, because we want that sort of thing where we like, come on.
And then when you look back, you can say, oh my gosh, I've made room or laid a foundation for someone else to continue on the good work. I love that.
Absolutely.
Oh, wow. I couldn't have said it any better, and I couldn't have inspired anyone any better with what you just said. You've done it. And I really appreciate your time. Sis Karabo, thank you so much for joining us on Inspirational Youth Thursday. And thank you to everyone for watching. And we hope to see you next time for our next episode. So bye from me. Bye, Sis Karabo.
Bye.
Thank you.